Just gotten word that former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted by a grand jury.
Former FBI Director James Comey, or as he likes to describe himself, Mr. Higher Honor, has been indicted by a federal grand jury in Virginia.
Former FBI Director James Comey is now the first senior government official to face charges.
We have major breaking legal news. The Trump Justice Department has now indicted former FBI Director James Comey.
Today, we're going to look at the facts and evidence behind the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. All right, I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to start this video off as a strictly factual recount of the criminal charges. So I'm going to treat you essentially as a juror. We're going to leave out all of the political wranglings and just really focus in on what the evidence is, what the charges are, and in that way you get to make a determination based on the facts on whether this case has any legs or not. And then we get to listen to the political spin from both sides. Now, first things first, this is a criminal indictment, which is evidence and proof of nothing. These are just allegations where, if proven true in a court of law, could lead to the conviction of James Comey. Now, this indictment lists 2 counts. The first count is false statements within the jurisdiction of a legislative branch, essentially lying to Congress. And then the second count is obstruction of a congressional proceeding, or essentially obstruction of justice, lying to Congress to hide the fact that you were doing something criminal. Now, for the next piece of factual information, the indictment states that the facts that led to this indictment occurred on September 30th, 2020, almost 5 years ago. Now, this is important because, as you can see, this indictment was filed on September 25th, 2025. That means there were only 5 days left for the government to get this indictment filed, or they'd have lost any opportunity to prosecute James Comey for any of these alleged criminal actions. Now, each count has a maximum jail sentence of 5 years. Yeah, I know, I've been saying number 5 a lot. 5-year statute of limitations, 5 days to file it, and now 5-year maximum sentence. So now, what do federal prosecutors need to do to convict James Comey of these crimes? All right, so first let's start with making false statements to Congress. Prosecutors in this case must prove that, 1, Comey made a statement to Congress. That seems obvious. Then they have to prove that the statement was a lie. Now, this is where things get interesting. They must prove that he knew what he was saying was a lie and said it anyway. Then they also have to prove that that false statement was material, meaning that it could influence Congress's ability to pass through laws or find the truth. And this obviously leads into the obstruction of justice charge, where if prosecutors can prove that James Comey knowingly lied to Congress, then obviously he was trying to obstruct them from finding the truth, i.e. obstruction of justice. Now, I'm going to say this again because I know in the comment section everybody's going to say, what he said was false, what he said was false. But it is not enough for a statement to be false. You must prove that James Comey knew the statement was false and he said it anyway. Essentially, actual malice. This was not a mistake. This was an intentional lie. And that is a lot harder to prove. Now, in this video, you're going to see the alleged lie. You're going to hear exactly why the government believes that Comey lied. But we need to first start with the evidentiary standard that we're looking at when it comes to an indictment versus what happens at a trial. Now, since we're talking about indictments, what's the evidentiary standard needed for an indictment in the United States? Well, it's probable cause. Now, essentially what probable cause means is that there are factual, reasonable grounds to believe that a crime has been committed and that there are reasonable and factual grounds to believe that the person being investigated committed that crime. Now, here's an example of probable cause. Police see a man climbing out of a broken store window in the middle of the night, and he's carrying a bag of electronics. Now, based on the factual evidence, is it reasonable to believe that the officer is observing a crime and that the person who's climbing out of the window is the person committing that crime? And the answer is obviously yes. There's enough factual, reasonable evidence to believe that this is a burglary happening and the man who's climbing out the window has just committed that burglary. Now, in this case, the person climbing out of the window with the electronics may not be a burglar at all. It could be the store owner himself. And that's the difference between probable cause and proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Because probable cause just really deals with the reasonable interpretation of facts at the scene. It looks like a crime has happened or is happening, and it is likely the person who we're seizing or arresting is the one who committed that crime. Now, with that being said, let's look at the evidence the government's likely going to put forward to prove that James Comey knowingly lied to Congress in violation of the law. This story starts with a man named Andrew McCabe. Now, Andrew McCabe was the former deputy director of the FBI under James Comey. Now, back in 2016-2017, there was a DOJ, Department of Justice, investigation onto who was leaking information out of the FBI to the news media. The investigation showed that the person leaking the information was the deputy director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, and he leaked that information to the Washington Post. Now, since the Justice Department found out it was the deputy director of the FBI who was leaking information to the Washington Post, they asked the deputy director of the FBI, did his boss, James Comey, the director of the FBI at that time, know about this particular leak, and did he authorize McCabe to actually leak this information? Here's what McCabe said in his testimony.
Did James Comey authorize you to disclose information about the Clinton Foundation investigation to the press?
I didn't need James Comey's authorization.
I didn't ask if you needed it. I asked, did he authorize you to disclose it? That's a yes or no question.
I authorized the disclosure.
Okay, you're still not answering my question. Did James Comey know about it, and did he authorize it? Yes or no? Did he know about it?
To my recollection, sir, yes, he knew about it.
Did he authorize you? Did he in any way give you the green light explicitly or implicitly?
I didn't ask Jim Comey.
I'm not asking whether you asked. I'm asking, okay, according to the Washington Times, April 18th, 2018, Mr. McCabe insisted he told his boss that he had authorized disclosure about the Clinton investigation, but Mr. Comey has denied this claim. And Mr. McCabe told investigators that Mr. Comey knew he had authorized disclosure and agreed it was a good idea. Is that accurate? Is that your testimony to this committee?
That is my recollection.
So you're aware that your testimony is 180 degrees opposite Mr. Comey's sworn testimony to this committee, in which he insisted he has never authorized anybody to leak to the press.
I'm not going to say what Director Comey said or didn't say to you. That would, however, your characterization of a leak is not accurate.
The FBI has records that will establish whether you're telling the truth or Mr. Comey's telling the truth. Do you believe the FBI should make those records public so if you're telling the truth, you can be vindicated, and if Mr. Comey's telling the truth, he can be vindicated?
I'm not sure what records you're referring to, Senator.
Any and all emails, correspondence, records whatsoever indicating that Mr. Comey knew of your leaks and authorized them.
I would very much like to see those records as well.
As would I. Thank you.
So we can essentially say McCabe's testimony is 1, I authorized the leak, 2, my boss obviously knew about the leak, and 3, he was on board with me leaking this information to the press. So obviously Congress brought in James Comey to ask him if McCabe was telling the truth. Did he authorize the leaks?
On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Okay, now it's time to put everything together. So we have two individuals, Andrew McCabe and James Comey. And at this point, it's pretty clear. Either McCabe is lying or James Comey is lying. So this has turned into the classic he said. But the government's case relies heavily on the credibility of Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director. Essentially, what the government is going to have to show is that Andrew McCabe is telling the truth and James Comey is lying to get a conviction against Comey. So now, when it comes to Andrew McCabe, is there anything in the past that would lead someone to believe that he is not credible? Well, what about if the Trump Justice Department fired him from the FBI for lying to investigators about leaking information? Would that hurt his credibility? Because that actually happened.
Washington former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe has been fired. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announcing the decision this evening. Sessions says the Justice Department's Office of Inspector General concluded McCabe made an unauthorized disclosure to the news media and lacked candor under oath on multiple occasions. McCabe had been on leave and planned to retire on Sunday. The firing jeopardizes his pension.
The Department of Justice, the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, making this decision late on this Friday night, saying it was because Andrew McCabe gave unauthorized disclosures of information to the media and misled investigators. This is all revolving around a Wall Street Journal report in October of 2016. Andrew McCabe says that the reporter in this case wanted to write something that was factually inaccurate, that he was trying to slow roll the Clinton Foundation investigation. So he authorized two agents to speak to that reporter to clear up any confusion and to give the facts in his view.
All right, let me make sure we're on the same page. Andrew McCabe, the Trump administration, says is a liar. They fired him for lying. They said he wasn't being honest and truthful, even under oath. So the Justice Department's whole case is hanging on the word of Andrew McCabe, who the Justice Department themselves calls a liar. Now, I'm asking you to be a reasonable juror, but in this circumstance, would you convict anyone solely based on the word of Andrew McCabe? Matter of fact, I would even ask, would you indict anyone based on the word of Andrew McCabe, especially under these circumstances? So I laid it out for you to play it out. Now, I want you to come to your own feelings about the case before I tell you how I feel about it, because it should be obvious. I don't think the government has enough to even get near a conviction. They may technically have enough to get past probable cause, but that is probably it. And I think even that's shaky. If this goes to a judge through a probable cause hearing and they're asking you for reasonable factual evidence, and the only thing you have is the testimony of a known liar, a person you fired for lying about the same events you're trying to charge Comey with, it's an uphill battle. But again, we'll see what happens. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to like great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer. Let me know how you came out in the comment section. Peace.